What's going on, everybody? Welcome into our bi-weekly live show here on Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman with my main man, Tax on the ones and twos. He's the one making this whole show work today, so show him some love in the chat. But welcome in. We got a lot of crazy rumors and news to discuss with the Minnesota Vikings right before we hopped on here. Ian Rapoport dropped kind of a bombshell little news piece that the Vikings are taking calls on star edge rusher Danielle Hunter, so he's going to be kind of headlining today's show. I'll also be talking about some Chase Young rumors, some Isaiah Simmons rumors. We're kind of diving into Minnesota Vikings OTAs and just overall news and rumors coming out of it, because the Vikings, they've had a pretty exciting OTA period, so I'll be breaking that all down and more for you guys. But we'll start it off with this. You know, there's been a lot of disrespect for the Minnesota Vikings, just amongst media members, amongst other teams' fans. And if you think the Vikings are going to win the NFC North again, let's get the skulls going down in the chat. And if you guys do that, I'll give you guys a shout out. So get the skulls going in the chat. We got Edges, we got Bill Walker, we got Kissy Shining in the chat. Joey Tana, shout out to you guys for getting in. Edges is saying get rid of Dalvin Cook and keep Danielle Hunter. I completely agree with that statement. That's exactly what I would do. Jaden Berry, a real one. Shout out to you, man. Welcome in. Go Vikings in the chat. Type in skull. Jason Revlin, type in skull. Kissy again. I see you guys down there. But overall, I just feel like the Vikings are kind of getting disrespected. You know, they won 13 games last season, and they aren't even near the favorite for the NFC North crown again this year. I feel like this happens every year, and I feel like it's kind of the Kirk Cousins effect on the Minnesota Vikings. Like, nobody believes that Kirk Cousins could really win a division again. You know, he's just going to have to keep on proving himself. I don't know. I just always feel like the Vikings are disrespected amongst NFL media. But we can just get to this. Would you extend Danielle Hunter? Because Ian Rapoport, like I just mentioned, that he put out the report that the Vikings are fielding calls on the star edge rusher. So obviously Danielle Hunter is only set to make $5.5 million on next year's cap. So would you extend Danielle Hunter? Would you put these trade rumors to bed, and would you keep Danielle Hunter on the Minnesota Vikings? Give me a Y for S or an N for no down in the comments. Curious to see what you guys have to say. I'm in the camp of keeping Danielle Hunter. I've been a fan of Danielle Hunter since he got on the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, those the neck surgery and the torn pec kept him out those 2 seasons. But in the later half of last season, he really got it going. You know, obviously the Vikings had to switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4. I think that slowed him down in the kind of beginning half of last year. But in that second half of the season, I thought Danielle Hunter was absolutely great. But we know what you guys got to say. 30-man saying why he wants to keep him. Jaden Berry saying, I like Patrick Jones a lot. I agree. I think Patrick Jones is a stud. I ought to be talking about him in a little bit here. But Sean St. Arnett saying why for yes. Jaden is saying N for no. Here we go. Edges is saying hell yeah, keep him. I'm totally with you. Stock up on picks coming from T.Y. Yeah, I can see that argument. Bradley Chubb, if you kind of want to take another edge that was moved last year at the trade deadline, he was moved for a first and a third round pick. I would hope the Vikings could at least get that for Danielle Hunter if they were to trade him. Maybe a first and a second, and then maybe you could kind of entice me in a trade. But overall, I want to keep Danielle Hunter. I mean, just look at the guy. Like, he is cut like a Greek god. I have been a huge fan of Danielle Hunter ever since his rookie year. 30R man saying thank you, salute. Shout out to you. Showing love in the chat. Chase Young to injury prone. Yeah, we'll get into Chase Young in a little bit here. Obviously, the Commanders could be shopping him, so we'll discuss if the Vikings could potentially pull off a big-time trade. But if you guys didn't see, the Madden cover athlete was released today, and it ended up being Josh Allen. I thought there was a chance that Justin Jefferson could have potentially be the Madden cover, but it went to Josh Allen, and honestly, thank you. Like, I did not want Jefferson to be on the cover. It would have been cool to have in my room, like to have the actual game and have Justin Jefferson right there, but we all know about the Madden curse and everything. Obviously, Mahomes kind of broke that last season, but, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm overall happy it wasn't Jefferson. Just get that unneeded noise, that unneeded extra pressure of being the Madden kind of cover athlete for the year. It ended up going to Josh Allen, so yeah, T.Y. saying should have been Jetta's. Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool. He definitely has done enough in his NFL career, and I do think, if not next year, definitely the year after, it will go to Justin Jefferson at some point. Hunter needs to retire a Viking. He says, nah, the Madden curse is real. So you guys are saying the Madden curse is real. And I agree. I would love for Danielle Hunter to retire a Minnesota Viking. He's been one of my favorite players since his rookie year. Like, I have been all over him. He is a freak athlete, just an overall good guy, good locker room guy. So, I don't know. I'm always in the camp of keep Danielle Hunter. Keep Danielle Hunter. Jaden says when he hits 2K yards this season, he'll be the next Madden cover athlete. Yeah, I agree. EA, how dare you disrespect Kirko, Captain Kirk. Yeah, how funny would that have been if you would have had the picture of Kirk Cousins with the chain on and the shades and have that be the Madden cover? That would have been actually, I think the Vikings would have beat the Madden curse, and Kirk Cousins would have beat the Madden curse if they put Kirko Cousins on there. I totally agree. Rocky joining us in the chat saying Skull. Phil saying the last 2 wide receivers on the cover of Madden turned into nut jobs. Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess it was OBJ and Antonio Brown. That's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that from Phil. The Vikings need to stop playing and pay JJ and Danielle. I agree. We'll get into all that and more here in a second. But Chase Young, let's talk about him for a second. Chase Young, he's on the trade block. The Commanders are looking to be shopping him. And pretty much I want to ask you guys, would you give up a first-round pick? Could be a later first-round pick if you think the Vikings are going to be good, obviously. But give me a T for trade or a P for pass. If you would trade a first-round pick for the former number 1 overall pick, Chase Young, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. Kirko Chains would have been the best Madden cover of any Madden. That would have been awesome. Like, that was actually a good idea. I don't know who put that in the chat originally, but that would have been a great Madden cover. So shout out to you. Great idea. Jaden saying pass for a first-round pick. 30-man saying pass as well. Joey saying trade. Kissy saying trade as well. Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. A first, probably not. A second, I'd probably do it. I mean, he's just got so much natural talent. And plus, edge rushers, you can never have too many in the modern-day NFL. Like, I mean, edge rushers, you need them. If you want to go on a deep playoff run, you're going to need to get to the other team's quarterback, make the other team's quarterback uncomfortable. Honestly, if we're talking like 4 most important positions in NFL right now, obviously quarterback, probably your tackles, wide receivers, and I'd probably throw edge rushers up there. Those would be my kind of 4 most important positions. And then keep Danielle Hunter under Flores. Yeah, I'm with that as well. Trade Hunter mid-season. Yeah, I mean, I could see maybe a trade mid-season if the Vikings aren't doing too well. T.Y. saying pass 3rd and a 5th maybe. So we'll get into Chase Young and all this and more. But with Minnesota Vikings OTAs going on right now, there's a ton of players I've been loving to watch. But I'll throw this your guys' way. Who are you most excited to watch play next season for the Minnesota Vikings? Let me know. My answer, I got 2 second-year guys. Jalen Nailor and Lewis Cine. Everything I have heard about these two coming out of Vikings camp, they have been absolutely fantastic, and they have been dominating, like legitimately dominating. Like Jalen Nailor, he had that one streak route that kind of went viral where he burned Byron Murphy, and you can kind of either take either side. You could be like, well, why is Byron Murphy getting burned? Or you could be saying, well, take the positive and the optimistic view and be like, look at Jalen Nailor. He's burning Byron Murphy. So let me know who are you most excited to see play for the Minnesota Vikings last season. 30-man's going shout out to Addison and Harry. Yeah, Harrison Smith under Brian Flores. That's going to be a ton of fun to watch. And just seeing Jordan Addison cook the other teams, cornerback 2 and 3 potentially. I'm all in on that. Jordan Addison's going to be a ton of fun to watch. He's saying he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver easy. I think I have to agree with that. Jaden Berry saying a Caleb Evans. Joey saying Andrew Booth Jr. Those two, I'm very excited to watch those two as well. Apparently, Andrew Booth Jr. looks great. We got a quote from actually KJ Osborne here coming up in a little bit. That's exactly why I would have went with Will Levis. I always believed in Jalen Nailor. Yeah, so you're talking about 23. You would have went with Will Levis, I'm assuming. I get it. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a huge Jalen Nailor guy. Like, I've been a fan of Jalen Nailor ever since we took him in last year's draft. I don't know. I'm also a huge fan of Jordan Addison. I love all the receivers on the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I think our big 4 of Jefferson, Addison, Osborne, and Nailor, like, I think you could stock that big 4 with any other wide receiver core in the NFL. And also Josh Metellus coming in from Meme Team. He's been dominating OTA so far as well. So shout out to Metellus. Shout out to all you guys in the chat. And if you guys want to help us out on today's live show, just give us a like down below. It's a quick, easy, free way, and plus it kind of tells YouTube to push this video out to more and more Vikings fans. We're at 12 likes right now. If we could get to 20 likes, it would really mean a lot. Easy, quick way to kind of push this video out to more and more Vikings fans. And also, what you guys are liking the video, we're going to have a mailbag in about probably 30 minutes or so. So make sure, use hashtag Vikings, get those questions in there. If you got any question about Danielle Hunter, big trade rumors around him, Dalvin Cook, obviously know the drama around Dalvin Cook, whether it be cut, traded, whatever it may be, whatever question you guys have on your Minnesota Vikings, use hashtag Vikings in the live chat. Helps my man text out. It'll be able to pull the questions super easy to the software. Just make sure you use hashtag Vikings. And then, hey, if you also want to support the show, you can always send in a super chat, and you'll be the first question that I talk about on the mailbag at the later half of the show. But give us a like on today's video and make sure you guys get those questions in there. But the first segment on today's show, we're going to be talking about Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, potentially the Vikings. Could they be, moving some pieces around and trading for those two guys? We're also going to be obviously talking about the Danielle Hunter report that Rapoport came out with. Kissy saying JJ, AJ, Hitman, Hunter are the guys he is excited to watch out for. But anyways, appreciate you guys all for watching. Text, if we're ready to go, let's do it. We're going to be talking about Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, and Danielle Hunter right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Vikings Now. I'll be your host for today's show. And coming up on today's show, we're talking about two trade targets that I think the Vikings could possibly be looking at on the defensive side of the football. We know the Vikings were a poor defensive team last year. These two guys, Isaiah Simmons and Chase Young, would automatically help that Vikings defense out. So we'll be diving into both these guys in depth in here in a little bit. But let's start off with this. Let's start off with the Danielle Hunter report that came from Rapoport right before we got on live. And obviously, if you guys are seeing this in VOD fashion the next day, we're talking about it. Rapoport, he said the Vikings are taking calls on superstar edge rusher Danielle Hunter. And just kind of my initial thoughts is I don't want the Vikings to move off of Danielle Hunter. I think Danielle Hunter, over the past, if we're taking the last 3 years, he obviously had that neck surgery, and then he had that torn pec that kept him out a while. And then this past year, kind of coming back fully healthy, having that full offseason, he did struggle at the beginning of this past season, but I think his struggles were a lot more contributed to the Vikings going from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4. And if we remember that second half of the year, Danielle Hunter, he really ramped it up. And I really do believe Danielle Hunter, he's a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL. He's actually got top 5 talent, in my opinion. And at a point you could have made, Danielle Hunter was up there with the Bosas and, the other top-tier edge rushers in the league. I mean, just look at him in this photo right here. The dude's absolutely jacked. He's an athletic freak. He's extremely vascular in his arms, also, you can tell in this photo. But I've always been a fan of Danielle Hunter. If the Vikings were to move off from him, I would want them to at least get a first and a second. Bradley Chubb went for a first and a third, so I'm hoping the Vikings could at least get a first and a second. But if Danielle Hunter were to be traded, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. So that's why you guys got to make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are just looking to become a more informed Vikings fan, we're going to keep you posted with news, rumors, trade rumors, injury updates over Lewis Cine, Jordan Addison, whoever it may be. We'll be your one-stop shop for it all. Hit that subscribe button, youtube.com/Vikings Today. Now let's talk about it. Chase Young. The report came out that the Commanders are open to trading star edge rusher Chase Young. This did come from Albert Breer. And Chase Young has had a rocky start to his NFL career. But if we look back to his rookie year in 2020, honestly, this dude was fantastic. In only 15 games, he had 7.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. That is a tongue twister. 13 tackles for loss, and 44 tackles total. I think Chase Young, just talent-wise, he's a top 10 edge. Talent-wise, Chase Young, he pops off the screen every single time you watch him play. I've always been a fan of Chase Young ever since he came out of Ohio State, and he was the number 1 overall pick in that 2019 NFL draft. But the Vikings edge rusher situation, we got top dog Danielle Hunter. He is the show. He is the main man, and obviously we're just talking about the trade rumors around him, so who really knows if he'll be on the team next season. Then we obviously got Marcus Davenport, who we brought in NFL free agency. I'm excited to see him play. And then these three right here, I am a big fan of just this group as a whole, but these three right here, these are the guys, if any of them just kind of pop and take that next step, this edge group, even though they did move off to Zadarius Smith, I think it could be a top 5, top 10 at minimum group in the NFL. Patrick Jones, he kind of popped a little bit last year. I saw that talent. I saw that flair come out of him. And then Andre Carter, the UDFA out of Army, he was fantastic 2 seasons ago in college football. kind of took a step back this past year, but he's got unreal talent, 6'7", really bendy athlete coming off the edge, and the DJ want him. You know, he really popped his rookie year. Again, same thing, kind of took a step back last year, but if he could ever get into that Pro Bowl, All-Pro level, the Vikings could really have something cooking there. But I'll toss it your guys' way. Would you trade a first-round pick for Chase Young? If the Commanders call you right now, you're Kwesi Adofo-Mesnah, and said straight up, Chase Young for a first-round pick. What are you doing? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. I would do a second, but I wouldn't do a first. I think I would pass on a first-round pick. I like Chase Young, and edge rusher is obviously a very important position in the NFL. You know, you obviously want to get the quarterback right, and then you want to protect the quarterback, and then you want to get to the other team's quarterback. So obviously edge rushers are a huge need for any NFL team. But for a first-round pick, for a guy who's really dealt with injuries throughout his whole NFL career, I would probably lean towards a second. Obviously, last season he did kind of slow down. He had 0 sacks in limited time for the Washington Commanders, but he's 6'5", 264 pounds, and he is an absolute monster coming off that edge. I've been always a big fan of Chase Young. Chase Young, he's been a dog for the Commanders, but he's dealt with injuries. So a second, I would do. A first, not so much. Isaiah Simmons, the Isaiah Simmons trade, he is next up here. Just a thought. This has been kind of thrown out there that he could possibly be on the trade block. With the Cardinals looking to tank next season, that's just straight up what it is. We can call it like that. Could they be open to trading Isaiah Simmons? Obviously, we just saw they cut DeAndre Hopkins, and then Budda Baker also requested a trade this past season. And the number one word that you kind of associate with Isaiah Simmons, versatility. He plays almost any position on the football field. And this past season, he actually filled up the stat sheet pretty well. Damn near 100 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 2 interceptions. And overall with Isaiah Simmons, I do think he's an extremely versatile player, like I was just saying, and I do think he would fit in very well with Brian Flores' defense. And if we can kind of take a look at scouting Isaiah Simmons and some of the measurables around him, he is an athletic freak. He is 6'4", 238 pounds, arm lengths at 33 3/8 of an inch, and his 40-yard dash at 4.39. I mean, being able to run a 4.39 40 at the size of 6'4", 238 pounds, that's just special talent. That's just a special type of athlete. And I really do think he would fit under Brian Flores. You know, Brian Flores, at any press conference that has came out, he has always said, I'm looking for versatile guys that can play multiple positions. In college, Isaiah Simmons, he played safety. He played linebacker. He played edge. He even hopped in the nickel corner spot for a little bit. He really played all over. I think honestly, Brian Flores, he would have a field day, and he would love to have a guy like Isaiah Simmons on this Vikings defense. But let me know, what would you give up if you were Kwesi Adofo-Mesnah? What would you give up for a guy like Isaiah Simmons? Let me know down in the comment section right now. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. Overall, I do love Isaiah Simmons, and I love his game. I love what he brings to the table on the football field. I think he's an extremely fast athlete. He's just a great athlete, and I think Brian Flores could get the most out of him. But let's ride with what we have. Like, I love what the Vikings are kind of cooking up in the linebacker group. Obviously, they had a big change in moving off from guys like Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks and kind of those Zimmer type of linebackers that we've seen for so long. But I'm curious, or I want to just ride with what we have in this linebacker core. I got some more thoughts coming up here in a second. But hey, guys, if you guys want to get the new kind of hot jersey amongst Vikings fans, it's Jordan Addison, and we got a great deal going on right now at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. He's going to be wearing number 3 for the Minnesota Vikings in this upcoming year, and I'm super excited to watch him play. And if you guys want to get his jersey right now, we got a great deal going on. chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Make sure you guys get your jerseys today. All right, we got to talk about the linebacker group because I would love to get Isaiah Simmons, but like I was saying, I like what we're cooking with right now, and I think Asamoah's stock is rising fast. I mean, there's been reports out of OTAs that Brian Asamoah is absolutely dominating. He looks fast. He looks explosive, and that's what we really wanted to see out of the third-round pick from Oklahoma. You know, last year, obviously he didn't really play too much, but he was fantastic in the limited reps he did get. He had that huge play against Daniel Bellinger against the New York Giants, and he really popped during that one play. But we can also talk about Ivan Pace Jr., the UDFA out of Cincinnati. He was supposed to be a top 100 prospect. Our very own Chat Sports Tom Downey did have Ivan Pace as a top 100 player in the NFL, or top 100 prospect, heading in the NFL draft. So if you could pair up Brian Asamoah and Ivan Pace, I think it would be absolutely exciting. I think the fireworks show would happen, and I think there would be a perfect modern-day linebacker combination because we don't really see these old-school linebackers like the Brian Urlachers and the Lance Briggs where they're 6'2", 250 pounds. Most of these guys are like 6'2", 230, 225 even. You take a guy like Roquan Smith, for example. I think he normally floats around 235. So a guy like Asamoah and Pace, those kind of younger and faster linebackers, I think it would be incredibly exciting. I think that could actually be pretty damn good for the Minnesota Vikings. But guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Any news and rumors that come about this team, we got you. We'll be your one-stop shop for all Vikings content all offseason long. Obviously, big news and rumors around Danielle Hunter and Dalvin Cook. So when anything happens about those two, we'll have a video for you guys out ASAP. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Let's go Vikes. All right, let me know down in the chat, would you trade a first-round pick for Chase Young here? Oh, you good. Yeah, thank you. I just got it, yeah. Yeah. Well, let me know. Would you trade a first for Mr. Young down in the comments section? Jaden saying pass. Kissy is saying no, sir. I would pass on that. Noah is saying pass as well. Yeah, I don't know. First round pick would just be too much for him. I would, if it's a second, definitely. Like, I think he's got enough talent where a second round pick, you'll be getting great value out of that. But first round pick, that would just be a lot to give up for Chase Young. So, yeah, next coming up on the show, we're going to be talking about some OTA stuff, some news and rumors coming out of there. But also, get your questions in there. We're going to have a mailbag after this segment where I'll be answering your questions on the latest Vikings news, rumors, whatever it may be. Just get your questions in there. It helps my man Tex out. If you guys just use hashtag Vikings in your question, whatever way is easiest for you guys, just make sure you use hashtag Vikings down there. Any question you guys have about the Minnesota Vikings, OTAs, news, rumors, trade rumors, injury news, whatever it may be, get those questions in there right now. Hashtag Vikings, or you can always send in a super chat. Help support us here at Chat Sports as well. Noah saying LB are like running backs these days. Yeah, I mean, linebackers and running backs, you've been able to compare them throughout NFL history. Like I've always said, like, the defensive line is just like the offensive line, and the linebackers are just like the running backs, receivers, DBs. Like, they all match up. Like, those are always the matchups. And honestly, if you have Asamoah and Pace, like, I'm okay running with those guys. Even like a veteran like Jordan Hicks. I know Jordan Hicks, Vikings fans, we weren't the biggest fan of him last season because he did struggle a little bit. Like Jordan Hicks, he looked slow in certain points. He wasn't really too good too good in coverage. He was okay against the run. But his coverage stats this past season were just absolutely brutal. So Jordan Hicks, Brian Asamoah, Ivan Pace, I'd be fine with just running with them for this defense. So Logan saying former rookie of the year. Yeah, I mean, his rookie year, he really came on the scene. He looked like a top pick in the NFL draft. So, which he was. I mean, the number 1 overall pick. Jaden saying pass as well. Phil, nope. Team up with Byron Murphy again. Yeah, that's a good point. We could get some more Cardinals in here. Vikings kind of had a pipeline of Cardinals defenders from Patrick Peterson to obviously Byron Murphy now. You just want to change that on the editor where it's not like cut off at the top. Oh yeah, it's my bad. Sometimes it gets switched up. Yeah, but we're going to be talking about OTAs here coming in a second because 3 big names from the Minnesota Vikings were not there at OTAs. It was Jefferson, Danielle Hunter, and Dalvin Cook, 3 of the better players on the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to be kind of breaking it all down and explaining why they weren't there and everything. But, Tex, if you're ready to go, we can hop into this. What's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now. I'll be your host for today's show, Patrick Siepman. Coming up, we're going to be diving into the latest news and rumors from Minnesota Vikings OTAs. There was 3 big guys missing, Jefferson, Hunter, and Dalvin Cook. We'll be diving into those storylines as well at the later half of today's show. But first, if you guys think the Vikings are getting disrespected by NFL media, whoever it may be, just go down and show me. Give us a like on today's video. I put the goal at 200 likes. Can we crush it? Make me look good for my bosses. Free, easy way to help us out here. Just go down and like today's video. But let's get into it. The 3 players, like I mentioned, that were not at Vikings OTA so far. I believe we're on day 10 today. Danielle Hunter, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook. And I'll start with Justin Jefferson right here. Just pay the man. Like, if you want him to show up to OTAs, you're going to need to pay him. I expect the Vikings to get this done no matter what. But just pay him. Like, I don't want to see, like I've seen like Ben Lieber and Paul Allen and a couple of guys complaining about Justin Jefferson not being there. You got to get him his money. Get him that contract extension that he has fully deserved. The man's got 4,800 yards in his first 3 seasons in the NFL. Pay Jefferson, and then he'll obviously show up. But the reason why Danielle Hunter's not there, he wants a new contract. I mean, he's set to make $5.5 million in this upcoming season. I get why he's holding out. Danielle Hunter, he's better than $5.5 million on next year's cap. Like, he's one of the better edge rushers in the NFL, and he's had a great start to his NFL career. He's actually the fastest player ever in NFL history to reach 50 sacks, 378 tackles, 71 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, and 85 tackles for loss so far for Danielle Hunter in his NFL career. And that's why overall, just pay the man. Like, I think Jefferson and Danielle Hunter, those are the 2 guys that are kind of in contract, disputes right now, and they're both kind of not necessarily holding out, but it could get to that point. Pay them both, and especially pay Danielle Hunter. Like, edge rushers in the NFL nowadays, they are a need. Like, the number one thing, if we're talking about, like, pecking order of what you want to get done as an NFL team, number one, it's still find the quarterback. But then once you find the quarterback, you probably want to protect that quarterback. And then number 3, you probably want to get some dudes that can disrupt the other team's quarterback and get out after the other team's QB. And a guy like Danielle Hunter, he does it better than anybody. So pay him, pay Danielle Hunter. Kwesi, I hope you're watching this. Just give him what he wants. He's a hell of a football player, especially under Brian Flores. He's going to really flourish this upcoming season. But I'll toss it your guys' way. Would you extend Danielle Hunter? If you're sitting down at the table with him and his agent and you're in Kwesi's seat, would you extend Danielle Hunter? I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and answer today's pinned comment. Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. So now next up, we're going to be taking a look into the Vikings quarterbacks, because the Vikings quarterback situation, there are some funny quotes coming out from OTAs, and Cody Benjamin did a great job of kind of breaking this down with Kirk Cousins and Jaren Hall. But this first part coming from Cody Benjamin, this just absolutely cracks me up, because I think if there is one quote that summed up Kirk Cousins more than anything, it is this. Kirk Cousins was the early standout of footwork drills, hollering "Booyah" in celebration of his own accuracy on short tosses into a net. Just imagine Kirk Cousins on the practice field shouting "Booyah" into practice throws into a net. I just absolutely love it. Kirk just fires me up. But they carried on to say, but 5th-round rookie Jaren Hall of BYU also looked the part for much of the day. He and veteran backup Nick Mullins, who re-signed on a 2-year deal this offseason, rotated QB2 reps during 11-on-11 drills later in that day. And Jaren Hall is a player that really excites me. Obviously, the 5th-round pick out of BYU. He was the first ever black quarterback to start at BYU in their campus's history. So pretty cool story about him. But this is him at Minnesota Vikings OTAs, and he does look the part. He's got a big frame. He's got really good form on his ball. He's got kind of that noodle arm that a lot of guys like Jordan Palmer and other quarterback coaches talk about with guys like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. They kind of have that U throw to him. And Jaren Hall has that type of arm, and apparently he looks great. He's just a prospect that, maybe he's definitely not going to play this year, but if he could develop into something, he could potentially turn into a starter for the Vikings down the road. Obviously, you just got to wait and see. But he's somebody that's just exciting me, and I'm very excited to watch him play during preseason. But this is what KJ Osborne said about Kirk Cousins, and I thought it was a pretty cool quote, just kind of talking about the chemistry that they have had going. He said, "This is not our first time learning it. We have a rapport with them and a connection with Kirk, so that makes it that much better, especially going against this new defense We're not learning and going against a new defense at the same time. And I agree, and I do expect Kirk to have a big year. This is the first time in Kirk Cousins' career where he is going to have the same play caller in back-to-back years. I'll say that again. This is the first time in Kirk Cousins' career that he will have the same offensive play caller. And this is a guy who's an NFL veteran. Like, he's a veteran in the league. He's 34 years old, and this is the first time in his NFL career back-to-back years with the same play caller. So I do expect Kirk to have a big year. Just Kevin O'Connell, I just think the offense is just going to be a well-oiled machine last year. They were top 10 in almost every statistical category in this past season. So I just expect them to replicate it and just keep on getting better. And I think Kirk's going to be a huge benefactor or a beneficiary, or he's going to benefit the most out of that. And I think he's going to put up a big, big year. But I'll ask you guys, predict Kirk Cousins' stats for next season. How many yards, touchdowns, interceptions? You can even get creative and throw his completion percentage in there as well. Off the top of my head, I'll go 4,300 yards. I'll say 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Kirk's always a fairly accurate guy. I'll go 68% completion percentage. But let me know what you guys think. Predict Kirk Cousins' stats for next season. But a guy he's going to be throwing the ball to is our rookie, who we took at 23 overall, and that was Jordan Addison. And we got his jerseys on sale at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. He's going to be rocking that number 3 in purple in this upcoming year, so make sure you guys go get his jerseys ASAP. Chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Get them now. Now we're going to be taking a look into the Vikings' new defense. We obviously just heard KJ Osborne kind of mentioned it earlier, but with obviously new defensive coordinator Brian Flores, the Vikings are going to be running a totally new, different type of defense. Like Peter King, an NFL film analysis, somebody asked him was, what defense do you think is going to change the most from last year to this year? And he said the Minnesota Vikings, just because of the defensive coordinator. Ed Donatell to Brian Flores, they play completely different styles of football. But this is what Cody Benjamin, who is at Vikings OTAs, said about the Vikings defense. He said, speaking of the Vikings' new defense, it was apparent in just a brief stretch of front 7 drills that Flores intends to get aggressive and creative in how he deploys players near the line. He carried on to say, loading the box with sometimes a half a dozen different defenders standing and leaning toward the line as if to rush. He had veterans like Harrison Smith, Jordan Hicks, and newcomer Marcus Davenport all over, sometimes blitzing, sometimes dropping, and sometimes doing both. An X factor in the group is second-year linebacker Brian Asamoah. And I agree. Brian Asamoah, he is going to have a big year. You guys obviously know I'm a big fan of him. But overall, the Vikings defense as a whole is going to need to be better from what it was last season. I mean, these stats are horrific. Like, if I showed you guys these stats and I said, how many wins do you think the Vikings had last season? You would probably say around 5 to 7, max. But this is a 13-win football team who is 30th in points per game, 31st in yards per game, 30th in yards per play, 21st in rush yards per game, and then 31st in passing yards per game. The Vikings defense is going to need to get better this next season, and a lot of that is going to fall on the Vikings cornerbacks. Obviously, Byron Murphy, we picked up during NFL free agency. He's set to be our cornerback 1 in this upcoming year. And then Andrew Booth Jr., the CB2, as of right now on the Vikings cornerback depth chart, I expect him to have another big year, a bounce-back year too. Same thing with Caleb Evans. He dealt with concussions last season, but another year 2 player that the Vikings are expected to step up. And then third-round rookie, Mekhi Blackman, kind of buried on the depth chart as of right now. But Brian Flores, he's a big fan of his, so maybe Mekhi Blackman could kind of be that shocker guy that steps up in place of, losing a guy like Patrick Peterson, Duke Shelley. We're going to need some of these corners to step up. But this is what KJ Osborne said about going head-to-head with Andrew Booth Jr. He said he's out there trying to work at his craft. He's been working all offseason to get back out here. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. I talked to him. I can tell. He's excited to get out here. I'm excited to work and get better and just compete. Of course, we want to stay off the ground, but if you if you happen to go down, we will bite it. And I love that mentality. It's just that sense of competition at Minnesota Vikings OTAs so far. KJ Osborne, Andrew Booth Jr. going head to head. And if there's any number one thing I'm excited to watch heading in the next season, it's got to be this Vikings defense. It was like watching paint dry last year, watching this team play defense in the NFL. I'm just excited. There's going to be a ton of new looks. They're going to be playing aggressive. No more of the sit-back, soft zone coverage that Ed Donatell was running. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be blitzes. It's going to be a ton of fun. There's one thing I'm excited to watch for the Vikings next season. It's going to be this defense. If you guys haven't already, give me a follow on Twitter. It's just at Pat Siepman. You guys see it right there. I'll put it in the comments and the description of today's video. So if you guys haven't already, give me a follow on Twitter. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's show. We'll see you guys next time. Let's go Vikes. Let me know down in the comments, would you extend Danielle Hunter? Because we're going to need Danielle Hunter back for this Vikings defense to have a good time, or have a good season. Not a good time. Well, good time as well also. But we did get a super chat. Well, we kind of right when we kind of started there from my man Davey Chains. Shout out to you. I also noticed you got a new profile picture here, Davey Chains. But he said, just ride the bus with what we have. Open up the damn checkbook and pay Hunter. He's taken too many team-friendly deals, and that's a good point. Danielle Hunter has taken a team-friendly deal. The deal he's on right now is the 5-year, $72 million deal, and obviously the Vikings paid a lot of that at the beginning half of that deal in the first couple of years, and that's why now this year he's only set to make $5.5 million. And if a team were to trade for Danielle Hunter, they would only need to take on that $5.5 million. So Danielle Hunter, I get his frustration with the Minnesota Vikings. Like, I really do. Like, he deserves to be paid more than $5.5 million. I want them to lock up him, Justin Jefferson, and then you're going to have to pay Christian Darrisaw eventually, which this all kind of ties back into the point that I am shocked they haven't moved off Dalvin Cook. Like, Dalvin Cook's set to make $11 million next year. If they would cut him, the Vikings would save $9 million. So, I don't know. I'm just still shocked that Dalvin Cook's still on the team. Like, I thought Kwesi would be trying to kind of nickel and dime his way to make for sure he knows that Danielle Hunter and Justin Jefferson are on this team next season. But, Davey, we appreciate it here. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Could not agree with you more. But, guys, we will have a Q&A coming up here in a second. So if you guys haven't already, use hashtag Vikings. Make sure you get those questions in there. Noah, I'm looking at you. Get those questions in there. Jaden, ask a question, whatever it may be. Noah, AGs, get them in there. Kissy, Joey, Logan, average Vikings fan, Davey Chains. Even you get a question in there. And if you guys do want to support the show like Davey did, you guys could always just send in a super chat. Easy, quick way to help support us here at Chat Sports. And you will be the first question we answer on today's mailbag. So get those questions in there. Hashtag Vikings with your comment, and we'll talk about it. Make sure you guys use hashtag Vikings, though, or else it won't be able to pull to our software. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that's perfect. Sweet. Yeah, ask the questions, guys. Whatever it may be, Dalvin Cook, Danielle Hunter, whatever's on your mind, you guys can really steer the ship here. And, Rocky's saying Hunter missed a lot of games. Yes, he did, but it was for 2 major injuries. It was for a neck surgery and a torn pec. Like, he's never really dealt with kind of those nicked up injuries and such. Like, he's been always it's always been the bigger year-ending injuries with Danielle Hunter. So I wouldn't really label him as, injury prone, if that makes sense. We get those questions in there. We're about to hop into today's mailbag. Logan, get one in there. Joey, average Vikings fan. We really do appreciate it here. So ask a question if you guys haven't already. But if you're ready to go, we can hop on into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now. I'm your host for today's mailbag, Patrick Siepman. And like I said, today is a mailbag on Vikings Now, where I take your questions from our bi-weekly live show, answer them live reactions. It's one of the best things we do here at Chat Sports, and I love doing it. So we kick it off with Davey Chains. He said, Vikings need to open the checkbook and pay Hunter. He's taken too many team-friendly deals. So Ian Rapoport, when you guys are seeing this, put out a report a couple days ago that teams are calling the Minnesota Vikings about potentially trading for Hunter. Initially, my thought was I really hope the Vikings don't. But if we could kind of take a trade that just happened for an edge rusher, it was Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb went for a first and a third round pick. So I would hope the Vikings would at least get a first and a second. I think Danielle Hunter has more value on the open market than a guy like Bradley Chubb. But that's a good point, Davey. Like, Danielle Hunter has taken team-friendly deals. Like, if I had to make the choice, don't trade him. Extend him like you are saying. Like, he has earned that. I think Danielle Hunter, one of the more underrated just overall players in the NFL, definitely one of the more underrated edge rushers as a whole. He's just got an unorthodox set of pass rush moves. So, yeah, I would just pay him. Just why would we even take a chance on letting him go anywhere else? But next question coming in from 30R Man saying, will Vikings bring in Hopkins, the wide receiver? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think the Vikings really have a need at all at wide receiver. D-Hop, the last report that I had was he was actually visiting with the Tennessee Titans in this past week, excuse me. But the Vikings, obviously, you got Jefferson, KJ Osborne, Naylor, Jordan Addison. You already have 4 really solid receivers right there. With how much Hopkins wants to get paid, I just don't really think it's a good fit for, honestly, either side. So I would say no. I don't think the Vikings will bring in Hopkins, but good question. Thank you for asking it. Next question coming in from Skull Nations. Do you feel like the Vikings are getting disrespected? 100%. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot, and it's been kind of floated around on Vikings Twitter as of recently that the Vikings are getting disrespected, not just by national media, but by Vegas. I mean, the NFC North odds, I get the Lions are a good team. The Lions are going to be a good football team, and they are going to be a very tough out in this upcoming year. Like, they are not the same old Detroit Lions. They are a loaded football team. But for the Vikings to be at plus 270 to win the division after winning 13 games and winning the division fairly easily without really losing too many key pieces and actually bringing in a lot more key pieces, I'm honestly just shocked. And I think the Vikings are going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. I just think it's the Kirk Cousins narrative that just lives in the back of people's minds, and they just can't get over it. But right now, I think the Vikings got the best receiver, the best quarterback, the best tackle in the division, and I think their defense is going to be better. But if you guys think the Vikings are going to win 10-plus games, spam Skull in the comments section. I want today's comment section to be looking like US Bank Stadium at 11:59 right before kickoff. Get the skulls going down in the comments if you think the Vikings can win 10-plus games this upcoming year. Question coming in from Noah. He said, Hunter is best at a 4-3, but we run 3-4. Why not trade and get value? So we ran a 3-4 last season. Brian Flores actually came out and said, normally Brian Flores does run a 3-4 defense, but somebody asked him, was like, what defense do you plan on running 3-4, 4-3, and which not? He actually said it's going to depend week to week, and I do think Brian Flores, he's a smart enough guy where he will kind of switch that up week to week, and he will get the most out of Danielle Hunter. I think Danielle Hunter obviously is better with his hand in the dirt in a true kind of old school 4-3 defense. And we kind of saw the struggles last season at the beginning of it when Danielle Hunter really struggled in that 3-4 system with Ed Donatel, but we saw him kind of pick it up at the later half of last season. So Hunter, I agree, he is better in a 4-3, but I don't think it's necessarily true that we will be only running a 3-4 defense this year. I think it's going to switch depending on whatever team we play, which is also why I love Brian Flores, and I'm excited to see him be the new defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Davey Chains, this was a super chat he had. It was actually the same question you asked at the beginning. He said, just ride the bus with what we have and open up the damn checkbook and pay Hunter. Yeah, like I said, I agree. Hunter has taken too many team-friendly deals. That 5-year, $72 million deal. Yeah, it was a team-friendly deal, and now he's only set to make $5 million this year. So I totally see why Hunter is holding out. But Jaden Berry, next question, he says, do you see T.J. Hockenson potentially becoming a top-tier tight end this season? Yeah, I already think he is a top-tier tight end. Like, I think if you're talking top 5 tight ends in the league, off the top of my head, I think number 1, obviously it's still Travis Kelce. Number 2, probably George Kittle. But number 3, I think it's open for debate. Like, I think you could throw T.J. Hockenson in there. Mark Andrews, Darren Waller. Those would be the 3 guys that kind of came to my mind off the top. But T.J. Hockenson, I expect him to have a very big year. Second year under Kevin O'Connell's offense. Second year paired up with Kirk Cousins. And we all know Kirk Cousins, even dating back to his days in Washington, he absolutely loves his tight ends. That's his safety valve. That's his safety blanket. So T.J. Hockenson, if we're talking fantasy football, take a flyer on him. Scully Rowley saying, who do the Vikings need to step up next season. One player that I think needs to step up for the Minnesota Vikings next season. I'll go this. I'll go Lewis Cine. Lewis Cine, the safety, the box safety for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, he's kind of bad, or he is coming back from a compound leg fracture in his left leg that was suffered against the New Orleans Saints last season in London. But again, versatility with Lewis Cine. He can play almost some linebacker. He can play some free safety. He can play some strong safety. And versatility, versatility, versatility. That's the number one word with Brian Flores' defense is versatility, and that's what Lewis Cine offers. So I expect Lewis Cine. I think he's going to have a big year, and if he has a big year, I overall just think this Vikings defense will have a much better season. Knack with the next question. He said, hashtag Vikings, sign Hunter, JJ, and Hawk unless we get a great haul for Hunter, then bring in some edge rushers, use capital to move up for a QB next year. I don't hate the idea. I'll kind of focus in on the second half of your question of using capital to move up for a quarterback next season. I'm all in that boat. Like, next year's quarterback class is absolutely stacked. You obviously got the two top dogs in Caleb Williams and Drake May, but then you got guys like J.J. McCarthy, Spencer Rattler, those kind of later first-round quarterbacks who do have a ton of talent. Obviously, if the Vikings do end up not extending Kirk Cousins that 1 year, $35 million left on his contract, it's going to be curious to see. I will say, I wonder how far Kirk Cousins has to take this team to get another contract. Originally, I said bare minimum the NFC Championship. I wonder if it could be the Super Bowl. Like, even if he does reach or have the Vikings get to the NFC Championship, I could easily see Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell wanting to draft their guy and kind of groom their own guy. That's a good, interesting point coming in from Knack. I would be all in on using capital as well to move up for a quarterback next season. Joey Tana saying, I want to sign Adrian Peterson for a mentorship. Yeah, this was thrown out last season. Adrian Peterson, it was actually on a Fort Worth radio station down here in Texas. He said he's open to a return to the NFL, but he did say if no teams end up calling, he will retire. And Adrian Peterson, I'm not lying when I say this. The man's 38 years old, and we have seen running backs in the NFL hit a cliff when they hit 28. The man is 38 years old. He's the same age as LeBron. I mean, AP, I love him. He's my favorite Viking of all time. I loved watching him in the purple and gold. It would be cool, like on Sunday, to see him back with the 28 on his jersey with the purple and gold stripes. Like, no doubt, that would be awesome. But I don't know. I just don't really think it's too likely. Noah with the next question saying, of all Vikings players this year, who will have the best season? I'm guessing, gone this year, who will have the best season? I'm guessing Duke. Talking about Duke Shelley. Of all that left, so like Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson went to Pittsburgh. I'm actually going to go Adam Thielen. I'm going to go the hometown kid, Adam Thielen. He went to the Carolina Panthers. I just think Thielen's going to be a great safety blanket for the young quarterback, Bryce Young. I think Thielen will do a great job of mentoring Bryce Young and making him feel very, very comfortable. So I'll go Adam Thielen to answer this question. But also Duke Shelley. The Raiders have a shaky quarterback room, and Duke Shelley's going to need to step up. That was the one guy I was really pissed the Vikings didn't bring back. But yeah, I'll go Adam Thielen for that question. Good question, Noah. Last question coming in here from the greatest ever. He's saying, should the Vikings sign Dalton Risner? So Dalton Risner, the Denver Broncos or former Denver Broncos interior offensive lineman. He is the best free agent offensive lineman left on the board. Past season, he played in 15 games, only allowed 3 sacks, 6'5", 312 pounds. He would overall be a better option right away than a guy like Ed Ingram or Ezra Cleveland, in my opinion. But I still want to see Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram develop under their own. Sign Dalton Risner, I'd be in. It would just have to come down to the financials and just the money that the Vikings would end up giving them. But I'll toss it your guys' way. Would you sign Dalton Risner? Give me an S for sign or give me a P for pass. I'm very curious to see what you guys got to say because I'd be okay rolling out Ed Ingram and Ezra Cleveland again this upcoming year. But let me know, S for sign or P for pass. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If any news comes out about Danielle Hunter or Dalvin Cook or anything about a Justin Jefferson contract extension, we will have a video for you guys ASAP. It's been a ton of fun talking Vikings with you guys today. And as always, we'll see you guys next time. Let's go Vikes. Let me know down in the chat, guys. Would you sign Dalton Risner? Give me an S for sign or give me a P for pass. Joey said S for sign. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad player to bring in by any means. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's live edition of Vikings Now. It's been a ton of fun hanging out with you guys. Shout out to my man Tex on the ones and twos. He did a great job today. But guys, thank you so much. Noah says, great show, good insight. Noah, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If anybody in the live chat isn't subscribed yet, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks on our bi-weekly live show. Make sure you guys stay tuned. VODs will be coming out on the channel all throughout the week. See you guys next time. Go Vikes.